So what we're going to be doing today is, as we move forward and we continue to discuss how to build our solutions, how to continue our work, we're going to be talking about the different services that are available on this platform. One of the things that we want to be able to start looking at is things like SharePoint, right? So this takes us into the next session of this bootcamp, and we're going to be talking about SharePoint. What is SharePoint? What do we do with it? You know, SharePoint is an enterprise web portal and sites. What does that mean? So really, we can create a portal or an intranet, a lot of us know it, and be able to use it with SharePoint. And we don't have to kind of worry about too much about the different areas of implementation of like a website, like if you use React or use any of those JavaScript platforms. It actually enables us to visually build this site. So as you can see in the picture below, the Bootcamp portal really was built using SharePoint. It's basically SharePoint's a content management system. It's not just meant to use websites, but it's also designed to enable us to be able to build solutions, right? So we can actually do things like web applications, business process, document management, right? And manage content on the site, on the portal itself. Any type of content that's actually managed by your business, by the different departments in the company, they usually tend to use some kind of content management system. So SharePoint basically provides that type of services. Also, communication and collaboration. We can create team sites for particular teams to work together, or we can actually create project sites that are specific to an effort, to a particular project that we want to be able to do. The whole idea behind this, again, is to do a low-code portal for external users via federated security. So low-code meaning, again, is really not a lot heavy in implementation. It's mostly like visual design and integration. But you can also expose, for example, with vendors, right? So you can actually create a portal for vendors, so vendors can tap into your network, be authenticated through via federated security, and be able to log into our environment. But our focus here in this bootcamp is not really to talk about SharePoint websites and portals, just really just extending the subject into that. But what we want to be able to do is build a solution. So what we're going to do here is we're going to leverage the concept of a data list, right? So a data list is really more or works as a database table that is stored in the content database, right? So SharePoint has there's a content database where a lot of the metadata information for those different objects are stored, right? So we're going to leverage the data list or the data services from SharePoint to build our backend. We're going to use that to build applications and backend for CRUD operations, which that stands for, create, read, update, and delete data. And we're going to show you how that works at a very local visual way, right? We can also build views. We can also build filters, alerts, and workflows, right? Again, so what is the point of building applications? Is not just to create a front end, but actually build business processes and automate processes that can enable your team and your company. We're also going to be looking at integration with PowerApps and Power Automate to do those business processes. So remember, so this is more of a business of a low-code type implementation, but doesn't have to be. There is also the ability to build solutions using Visual Studio, right? So we can actually build a SharePoint add-in with Visual Studio, and this is now more into the heavy coding approach, right? So in the coding approach for SharePoint, we can actually, with the Visual Studio solution, we can actually go heavy on the code and use platforms like React, Angular, Vue, whichever platform you're really familiar with, and actually sort of look at how we can actually build lists and pages and static content to be able to build a website. So you can see here on the screenshots in front of you, you can actually see how we have those different components, right? We also can publish directly from Visual Studio. So that's one of the advantages here, because as you will see, and we start building a solution with SharePoint, you will see how this is a sort of a manual process, but you may want to have some sort of ability to publish this with a sort of a continuous integration, continuous deployment process approach, right? So you can leverage that to do this, okay? And the idea behind this is that as we build these applications, we can actually tap into the RESTful APIs, right? OData RESTful APIs for SharePoint, which enable us to use any of the services to actually like do the CRUD operations and create the records and update the records and things of that nature, right? As I mentioned to you guys, there's a run book. If you look at that link over there, the run book, and we'll take a look at it right now. It gives you step by step on how to build this solution. So as we start building it, we can actually, if you get stuck, you can actually just make reference to it, and I'll quickly switch to it so to show you. So this is really the runbook. If you go to GitHub, you will see the information here, and as you scroll down to it, you will actually find a file called runbook, and that's the file that you want to click into and basically browse all the details of that file, right? So you can actually see the steps on how to do a data list, how to add the fields and property, how to continue to do the steps by steps, right? As we make progress and we kind of do the Power Platforms and we create different processes, this is really what we want to be able to show you guys, okay? All right, so now you can have that. You can actually view and you can see that the content, and you'll be able to. If you get stuck, you can actually go ahead and leverage that document. Okay. So what we're gonna do now, I'm gonna switch to SharePoint and actually kind of show you guys how to build this solution. Okay. So let me go ahead and switch to that really quick. Okay, I know there is a little bit of a delay. I'm getting a message here. It's a little bit of a delay, so bear with us. This is a live event, so there's a slight delay between switching pages, and perhaps a little bit of lag on my voice, but we'll get through it. Okay. All right. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna show you really quick is we're gonna open up the SharePoint portal. Okay. So this is the SharePoint portal. As you will see, it's really basically a website where you can actually create pages, create links, and things of that nature, communications, events, documents that can enable your company to, I guess, to collaborate with other teams, right? Or a team within the company to collaborate and share information. And this is pretty simple and easy to use. In reality, you can just basically, what you do is when you create a page like this, so what I did not show you here is that you can actually, from the main side, you can actually click on create site, and that will actually give you the information of what is it that you want to create, right? Which is a team site, communication site, and then this will take you to a wizard and generate basically, it will create something like this, and then it will be very plain. It will just be a boilerplate site, but then you can customize it, right? You can actually edit the site by clicking on edit, and this actually enables us to be into edit mode. And at that point, you can, each one of these tiles, the layouts, anything that's here can actually be modified You can actually click on any of these tiles here, and you will see a context menu that enables you to basically edit some of the contents of the site, whether it's the link that it goes to, some of the messaging that you have, the background image, and things of that nature. So that is how you basically can build this, right? And if you wanted to, you can even go to the extent of changing the layouts, right? So you can actually see that you want a layout for one tile, two tiles, and things like that. So, all right. So this is going to be, so this is really how you will build a site, right? And each one of these basically tiles is is what's called a news. So you can actually post news here, and it will just basically take you to, I'm going to discard the changes here. I'm not going to make any changes. But here you can actually add news, and in the news, really, you can actually create new content, and it will give you the same kind of format where you can actually create a layout. You can actually upload images, and you can do basically just continue to add the sites there. Okay, but as I mentioned before, and we want to give you enough time to be able to build a solution. We want to be we want to be able to build a SharePoint solution, right? We want to be able to build an app. And the way we're going to do that is that we're going to go to a site, another site. This is like a portal, though. So what I show you here is more of a portal look and feel. We want to be able to go to a traditional site that we have implemented here, which is for the for development purposes, right? And as usual, you can create a new site, and you can actually build a traditional, more of a traditional team site for SharePoint. That this is the old way, right? This is how it used to look compared to how you can build new sites like this on SharePoint. So it's a big improvement in the last few years from the old look and feel to the new way of building the site. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna show you how to build an application as we show you on the presentation, and we're gonna start by building a data list. So how do we do that? So usually, if you follow the rule book, it will take you to the steps, but you will actually need to visit what's called site contents, right? And site contents is really where contents for this site exists. So it could be folders, documents, anything like that you want to be able to work with, right? Document libraries and templates and things of that nature. Here, what we're gonna do is we're gonna click on new, and we're actually gonna select list. This is gonna take us to front end where we actually can build the list. And what we wanna do here is let's call this product log, right? Because we're actually building a product management task management tool. So we're gonna call it product log, and we're gonna be able to say create. This basically what it does, it actually creates a simple list with one column, right? So now if we start thinking in the sense of database development, this is really what we're doing at this point. We're sort of developing the database, right? But we're doing it application first model, right? So we're basically saying we're building the model from the app standpoint, and then the backend gets created for us, right? So the way we do this is we only have a title, right? But we also need to add a few more columns. So let's go ahead and add another one. Let's add a datetime column, right? And let's call that task date, for example. Right. So let's call it task date, and we're gonna make that a date time, and we do not want to include time in no friendly format. So this is really gonna gives us just the date itself without any time, and that's really what we want for this type of stuff. Okay, and you also have more options here, like for example, do you want to require this? Yes, we definitely want to require that. And if you had some customization, some validation, like you want to apply some business rule for the validation, then you will do it here and apply some sort of formula. But in our cases, we just want a plain date, and we want a date picker, so this will do it. Okay. So in addition to that, we want to be able to add another column. So since this is more of a product management task log, we want to be able to create some kind of areas for this. So we're going to say that we're going to build an area field, and what we want is we want this to be a choice field. And what choice field is, basically will create a list of options, like a select dropdown. And we want to do is we want to select some of the areas of the app, right? Just simple areas. So architecture, let's say design, let's say we want to do front end, right? So these are the different areas that we can actually be building. And let's do another one. Let's call it quality, right? So here we can actually now, this is the list of items that we're creating. And we can actually change the color to something that you want, right? So here we're really just customizing the app, as you can see, right? And we don't want any default value, right? And the same thing, we can do validation or not, but we're not gonna do that. So we're gonna save this, and now what we created is an app that has basically 3 different fields, right? And what we wanna do is we wanna create new records. So let's do something really simple here and say, let's say cloud infrastructure here. And we want to be able to, let's say we want to create this task for, let's just try to use some days here. And we want to do, this is an architecture, right? And we want to save that. So basically what I'm doing is just really creating some data. So we can say here, perhaps continuous integration. Let's call it CI process. So this is more of the deployment process, and we can say, okay, we're going to take care of that task here, and it's going to be part of our architecture, and we're going to save that too. Let's create some areas on the design at the design level. So let's say, for example, logo designs. And the idea here is we're creating items that when we do our analysis via Power BI, we want to be able to compare the data and be able to sort of determine what data is that we're using, right? Or what data we have in our system. So let me just, for the sake of our dashboard, that it will look better, add just a couple more. Let's say just very generic terms here. So let's go ahead and do this as well, and just do design, and let's create another one on another area so we have a little bit more coverage. And let's say login page, and then the login page would really be in the area of let's say it will be in the area of front end, right? So, and we save it. Okay, so now what we have here is a few records that that we're using, right? And what we can do is if you navigate through it, you can click here and you can say edit, and you can make changes here. So this is the way you can actually edit the records and build it, right? So so what's happening behind the scenes here? Now that we have all these records, we have this application, we have the product log there that is available in our navigational bar. What is behind the scenes of this? If you click on that gear at the top right and you go to list setting, and we're going to open another tab for that, you will actually see that the information behind the scenes of that application. So this is really what's happening here, right? This is really sort of the database information, all the configurations for the for that table that we created for that data list, with all the different fields, right? Title, task date, area, and you can actually see the different requirements, right? If something here is missing, you can actually go and change it here. You could, let's say area, we meant to say it required. I could go in here and actually edit that field and then make the corrections, right? We can actually go and say, okay, I want a choice, I want to require, yes. So this is the old way of managing this list. And this gives you more detailed information of what's happening at the back end level approach, as opposed to front end, right? The other one is more of a front end approach. So here we can actually reload this to make sure that the requirement applies and the new constraints are loaded into the application. And basically that's another thing to notice, because it'll come back later for us, is that we have the concept of a view, and views really is what enables us to basically create customize views with columns and filters that we can actually expose to users or to even integration points. So you will see here that for this view, we only want a few items. This is very important because behind a data list, there is a lot of tables, a lot of columns that are created, but we don't want to carry that forward, right? We don't want to have to to carry all that information. We just want things that are very applicable to us. So for example, also you can do filtering here. So you can actually, from this filter, you could just go ahead and put rules of how you want this filter to be. Okay. So what's important here is I'm showing you all of this is that I want you guys to, as you build this, is to get familiar with the platform and play with it, right? Not just do this front end, but sort of understand what's happening behind the scenes, sort of play with it, click through the app, and just basically learn a little bit about the platform, right? So you can actually just go ahead and start building this app. So with this, I'm gonna let you guys take off now from here and start doing your hands-on. We're gonna be available here to be able to give you answers if you have any problems. I'm gonna show on the screen the run book so you actually can follow this. But the idea is to be able to build something like this, right? And if you have the platform, if you logged on and you have it available, you can go ahead and do that. If you did not get a chance to build the platform, do not worry about it. You can still follow along with us. You can see what we're doing and just pick up a little bit more, okay? So we're gonna, let's take a look. So we're gonna take the next 25 to 30 minutes to be able to for you guys to take on this. And then I'm gonna give you guys a heads up on, hey, the next session is gonna start. And then we're gonna start talking about the Power Platform. Okay, guys, so go ahead and start building this. So the goal is to build something similar to this, okay? And I'm gonna show you guys here the run book for this area. So again, you can actually look at the URL here, and you can actually just follow the instructions here for the SharePoint platform. And just go ahead and do that, okay? Any questions you may have, you feel you have a questions, we have the Q&A area of the app. So we can actually, if you take a look through as you are doing this work, take a look at the Q&A. As some people may be asking some questions, and you can actually see the communication. Okay. Okay, so please don't forget we have the Q&A. Leverage that, please. And we also want I want Dave to introduce himself. Good morning, Dave.
Hey, good morning, Oscar. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
Yeah, a few technical issues, but what else is new? You know.
Yes. Yeah, so Dave, so I introduced to them the SharePoint environment. So right now, the next 20 or so minutes, they'll be working hands-on on building this. I'm hoping that if there are any questions, they can actually post them through the Q&A, and hopefully we can help them move along. So guys, so please be interactive if you feel like you need some help, and reach out to us, okay? Hey Dave, how is audio? Is that good? I was having problems in the morning. Okay, I was having problems in the morning. I got some feedback that they were not listening to me. So I don't think some people were able to listen to my good morning, welcome everyone message. But so good. Seems to be working better now. I can see the live event screens are moving faster. So there seems to be there was some big lagging early in the morning.
Yeah, I'm not following this the live part of this. This is like webinar then, set up like a webinar.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So can you see the screens though?
I can see the screen. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so it's live because as I'm interacting and typing and moving, there's really the feed is should be real time, right? But I can actually see that what I'm doing is not reflecting right away on the live.
No, it's like streaming to YouTube or something. It's
exactly.
It's delayed.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's a delay. So
you didn't have me on the schedule, and I'm happy to skip the graph stuff if you want. So
it's really up to you. So so basically, I wasn't sure.
yeah. Well, I didn't communicate well either. So yes, so it's sorry about that. My fault.
So we'll see if you want. So in the schedule we have, I'm gonna show the schedule to everyone. Again, so this is the plan right now. So we are actually working on the SharePoint solution and overview.
Yeah.
Right. Can you see the schedule?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So basically, so this is the plan right now. So they're building, we definitely need to build the SharePoint solution first, because that's really the building block to be able to move into the next level, which is the Power Platform and the Power BI stuff.
Yeah, I would say
so
just, stay on your current track. The graph, all the graph API stuff's kind of a diversion from what you're doing in some ways.
Okay. All right. So
I have stuff prepared, I was going through the tutorials and quick starts on the graph site. I was surprised at how many of them didn't really work.
Okay. It's technology, man. That's what's going on.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah, it's like, I was trying not to use the stuff that I'm doing for customers, so it's, anyway.
Yeah. So the goal here is that everybody's doing this is to basically enable them to build something that is not that very, very difficult, right? For them to see how easy it is to build this platform. And Graph API, so I covered that a little bit. I don't know if you were here when I spoke about it.
No.
Yeah, so I sort of cover a little bit just to introduce the platform. Really is more of an advanced feature, right? So
it really is.
It's more.
Like it's nice in .NET. There's an SDK, and the beta SDK is even nicer, but it's still it's diving into code.
Yeah.
Even the simple take a lot of effort. So.
Yeah. And with that being said, basically, so I covered on my presentation earlier, I talked about how for SharePoint and Visual Studio, we can actually use Visual Studio to build solutions as well. And definitely, I'll show you as people are working on SharePoint right now. I'll show you an example. Again, this is actually available from GitHub, everyone. Right. If you go to this GitHub project that you see where the runbook is, and this will be available, all this information I'll email it to you guys at the end, but there's websites for this where you can actually get this, but I'll show you really quick what this will look like, what we just built on what we just built for the SharePoint stuff. I'm going to show you how that's built using the Visual Studio, basically. All right, so let me load that up. And this is really just, you can continue to build your SharePoint data list. That's important for the next steps. I'm just kind of giving you more feedback on the on how to do that using Visual Studio, right? And how this gets a little bit more into the coding way. It's not using the Graph API, but it's actually using the SharePoint API, right? So the Graph API will be something different that actually will do the same things that we do here.
Yeah, the idea of the Graph API starts to pull everything together into one set of endpoints.
Correct. Yes. Yeah, and this is just specific to SharePoint. So for that, we use the SharePoint API. So if you can see here, and again, this is available on GitHub. So do not worry if I'm going too fast. It's just there, right? But this is really now if you wanted to get really, really hands-on into building when we build the data list, right? So if you see the data list here, This is basically how you will do it through code, right? So basically you can build the schema, you can build the information that is designed for that data list. Obviously, this is a lot more difficult than just building it through the front end, right? So this is something that you will do if you want to be able to build packages and kind of deploy them, right? Like if you want to build some kind of a solution to sell to people, this is really what you will do, because this enables us to deploy this automatically, even via GitHub, into Power 365 platform. So what you will do here, just to show you really quick, so it actually builds the data list, but if you wanted to actually interact with it, you will actually create a page, right? So in the page, you can actually, see if this loaded here, in the page, you can actually just create what's an ASPX page, basically. That has a lot of the wiring for SharePoint, a lot of the components that are needed. You know, so if you're familiar with ASP.NET, then this is really the area to do. But this is really because SharePoint needs that sort of template to be able to load the pages. But you could also load it with HTML, right? And what we do here is we actually can build an application and actually add a component that's gonna load that data list as a web application, right? So if you're familiar with components, this is really the markup for the component, and the component is actually on the JavaScript. And this is really the definition of the component, right? At a very simple way, we load it here. So we can actually build the Office app component here. If you can see this a little bigger, perhaps. And you can actually code around it, right? So this is really building a service for that component that interacts with the SharePoint API. So this is really doing the endpoint for the items on that list. And this is actually getting, for example, the areas, right? This will be the way to get the areas. You actually query the choices field, and you pull that information, which is like the design, the architecture, the front end, those entries, right? Because they are needed for the drop-down boxes. And I'll show you guys how that looks. But so you can actually do the API calls here for get items, add an item, and you can actually see how the JSON structure is used to be able to build a payload and actually post that into SharePoint. And the one thing to notice here is how we have a request digest token, which is really a sort of a security. It is a security token that would enable the app to be able to, it will authorize the app to be able to post data to SharePoint. So this project is there, it's available. It's the scope of work to be able to talk about every detail here is a lot longer. So it will take us, it will take all the time to do it. So what we want to do today is give you guys all the tooling and understanding of how this works, so you guys can do rapid apps, right? This will be a little bit slower, but it's more detailed, and it's good for you guys to kind of understand it. But if you wanted to deploy it, you basically just, as you build this, you start by connecting right to your SharePoint site, and you will see here on the project's property the site URL for SharePoint, and you'll be able to point to the website. Take a look at this endpoint, right? That's very key here, because that's the site URL. And the site URL is what we'll be using to be able to connect for our connectors, right? To whether it is Power BI, PowerApps, anything like that. That will be your endpoint for those connectors. But to deploy it, you just basically right click here and say deploy, or you can just publish the package, right? But when you deploy, this is a live deploy to SharePoint, and would actually send that information to SharePoint. And I'll show you guys. I pre-deployed that already, but I'll show you basically how that will work. When you go to the site, okay. All right, so when you go to the site here, you will see, let's see along here. If we go home here, there will be an application link on site, and that's basically the site that that will be deployed if you run that. So it's actually called Bootcamp to do, right? That's really what we deploy, right? And to know how this looks like, then what you do is you look at the app manifest. And I forgot to cover that, but I'll show you guys really quick. But I'll show you how this runs first, and then the app manifest, so you control the names and all that. When you click that, basically what this is going to load is going to load that application. So this is really that application, right? As you can see now, you can actually add more stuff. In this case, I use comments, but that could be task date. And so that's an exercise for you guys to be able to do that. And you can actually look at the drop down here and add a new record. So let's say we want to do the login page, right? And we want to be able to do that as part of our front end. And we want to add it. So basically this adds another record here that's on SharePoint, right? But this, remember, this is not connected to the data list we created. This is a whole data list independently packaged with this solution. But this shows you basically how all of this works, right? So you can see the new record is added here, and then